pretty cute. It's pretty cute. Okay, hey everybody, welcome back to Validate Me,
where me and my dad show each other stuff that we like in hopes that the other will think it's cool and validate us. And I think that's the intro. I think I did it.
That's pretty good. That's as close as an intro as we've gotten. This is episode 4.
Is it?
Right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and this is the closest we've been. So this is Presley's assignment to me.
2 assignments.
Number 2.
Yay.
And Presley, what did you give me this time?
Okay, so I gave you the extremely underrated and very amazing album El Radio.
Yep.
And the very, very terrifying and very, very adorable game, Doki Doki Literature Club.
Doki Doki Literature Club. I think we're going to start with Doki Doki Literature Club, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Because I think I may actually have more to say about Doki Doki. And I don't want to run out of time.
Proud.
But we'll see. I don't know. We've got a song-by-song breakdown about audio, too.
Radio.
So we can, we'll play with that as we get along.
Oh, jeez.
All right.
That was close.
So first thing, let's do a little housekeeping.
Woo.
So I'm going to say first this time, if you are liking what we're doing and you're having a good time, I think it would really help us out if you would go hit up iTunes and leave a review or a rating over there. Like, I don't know if it would, but I hear people say that are doing podcasts that it helps them if you do that, and I assume it sort of bumps you up a little bit in the iTunes ratings, and iTunes is probably a main way that people discover content this kind of way. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just a little, a star rating or a review would be really awesome. If you're listening to what we're doing and you're not enjoying it, probably don't do that.
Yeah.
But if you're having a good time like we are putting this together, then it would be great if you could go over to iTunes and leave us a little review. Yeah? And if you want to reach out and get involved in the conversation, Presley, how do you do that?
So if you want to reach out and get involved in our conversations, leave a comment. You can leave a comment on the YouTube video if you're watching it there, or send us a tweet at ValidateMeCast on Twitter, or send us an email at validatemepodcast@gmail.com.
There you go. That should be pretty easy.
Yay!
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys, and we'll incorporate your stuff into the
emails
conversations.
Yet. Become the first emailer.
Yeah, you can be the first emailer and get a first email shout out next week when we do the podcast if you send us an email.
Like, no one uses email anymore, though, so that might be hard.
Yeah, that's true, too.
You're like the only person that uses email.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
Well, not like pretty much.
I don't think even pretty much. I think like Gmail is not in business because I do email.
You do email a lot.
I do a lot of email, but I don't think I'm the one keeping Gmail's doors open or Microsoft Exchange or any of those massive products. Cool. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Doki Doki Literature Club. Here, I've even got a little smaller. Because it's super cute.
Doki Doki.
Okay, why don't you lay out the premise here of Doki
right.
Doki Literature Club for us?
All right. Number 1, first thing I have to say, please heed the warning. There is a warning in the game that it's do not play this game if you are squeamish, young, or have depression or anxiety. Me, a 12-year-old, played it anyways. But if you, is it okay if I say the triggers that are in the game?
Look, we have established that the podcast is spoiler territory.
Very much.
So we're not going to do a non-spoilery conversation about Doki Doki Literature Club. It only takes a couple of hours to play through it. So yes, if you need to, go play it and come back and watch the video.
So the triggers in this game are cutting, suicide, depression, abusive parents, all that jazz. So if any of that will trigger you, be very careful while playing the game. It is a fantastic game. It is very clever, and I love it a lot, hence why I made my dad play it.
So, okay, let's give us the overview of what the overarching kind of theme is of what's going on here.
Okay, so...
Super high level. The theme is... This is a very stereotypical visual novel type game and visual novel not as in Homestuck or Undertale, visual novel as in dating simulator. Yeah.
Because that's what they're called now.
Yeah, and so I guess that's a thing?
What?
A dating sim?
Yeah.
Because I've never actually played a dating sim.
I have played dating sims before.
So I don't get the, I get it. Just by playing it, I can see what a dating sim must actually be like. Mm-hmm. But I didn't get the sort of inside jokiness of comparing this to an actual dating sim. I assume it starts off a lot like a dating sim.
It does.
Until things start to go sideways a little bit, I assume it's pretty much like a dating sim. Yeah?
To be fair, the only dating sims I've played a My Little Pony dating sim when I was 8.
Yeah.
So I know that, and I have watched people play. I've watched people play Hatoful Boyfriend and Dream Daddy and Honey Pop. So don't play Honey Hop Pop, by the way. That is very...
So why don't you explain what a dating sim is while we're at it, so that people who don't know dating sims can understand how a dating sim works.
First of all, if you don't know what a dating sim is, who are you? But second of all, a dating sim is a visual novel. I'm assuming people can understand what that is. It's like a video game where the text appears on screen and you can click through dialogue options and make choices.
Yeah, and usually there's like still pictures that change every once in a while.
Yeah, you kept complaining about that.
More often than having like the one picture at the beginning of a chapter in a book. So it's more often than that. But they're static images usually, with maybe tiny pieces of animation, like little animated elements to them. But usually it's like a still picture, and then like Presley said, there's dialogue that's in front. Then you kind of click to move. You don't even have to do that though. You can set it up to kind of click through until you just sit and read it mostly.
And you can make choices, so it's like a choose your own adventure.
A little choose your own adventure aspect to it. Certainly, I was wondering certainly as I got into this one if I was going to be allowed to make a decision. That was one of
made several decisions.
My initial hangups. Like it took a long time to set the stage, and it is like after playing it, like I see, like it's sort of lulling you into complacency, into sort of this false sense of security. Before it launches its total craziness at you, and
I will talk to you about the one like gripe you had at the beginning about choices, because there is a reason.
The specific one.
The specific gripe. There was a reason.
Okay, here, I'll lay out what it was. Right? We're in spoiler territory here. Right. Okay, so like the game's building up and you're reading, and so apparently like this dating sim, there are, in this case, like there's like 3 or 4 girls, right, that are in the game. And but it becomes 3.
Three
paths or whatever.
There are 3 paths.
There are these 4 girls in this club that you joined in high school, and you can choose different actions that you take. Like in this case, you're writing poetry because you're in the literature club, and you pick like what kind of words you want to put in your poem, and you know that one of those girls will specifically like the words that you're choosing, and so you're trying to get that girl to fall for you and become your girlfriend, right? So that's sort of dating sim and boyfriend, whatever. They go both ways. I assume there are dating sims for girls and for boys. And are there LGBT friendly dating sims?
Dream Daddy.
Okay, well there
are so many.
No. I'm not surprised at all by the fact that those exist. I'm certain.
I have played very many of
them. But yeah, so you're making choices trying to impress one person. And are they supposed to in some way improve your ability to do that in the real world? Or is it just like a pure fantasy kind of thing? Yeah, I was wondering if it's like a practice
That's
kind
a
of
weird
thing.
Thought.
Like if you're trying to anyway, so the beginning of the game, you meet these girls and they kind of give you hints. They drop hints about what they like so that you know later when you're doing something for them, you should be picking certain stuff if you like one of the girls in particular, if you like their personality. So they let you know a little bit about their personality so you can decide who you like, and they also let you know some of the things they like, so when you buy a present or you write a poem or you do something in one of these games, you can gear it towards one of the girls.
Yeah.
Right? Or boys, whatever.
One of the, or NBs.
So in this, like I felt that coming because I played a ton of like text adventures. Like it was kind of Zorky, or like there's a really great Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy text adventure that we need to play.
Spoilers, I'm not done with the series yet.
No, like there's some really amazing stuff to play, right? And so I was kind of used to the format, and I loved Choose Your Own Adventures when I was a kid. And so it starts in the beginning. Right. You meet all the girls, and then they all sit down in the club, and then like 3 or 4 times it references, hey, there's 2 empty seats. One is next to Monica, and one is next to Sayori. And so it's letting you know that you're going to have to pick between those 2 seats. And it was certainly making me feel like I was going to get to pick which of those 2 seats I sat in. And then suddenly it just says, you take a seat next to Monica.
You took a seat next to Sayori, actually.
Okay. You take a seat next to Sayori. And I was like, wait, what? Like, that was the first time I thought I was, after like an hour of playing, I thought I was going to get to make a decision, and it was going to be who I sat next to, making the first step towards my path journey.
Down towards Sayori or Monica.
Down towards whoever I was going to pick to sit next to. But no, not so much. It made that decision for me. Yes. Luckily, it was soon after that. Although, like, the first night, I kind of stopped playing there.
I know, and I was so mad. I was like, I promise you, this is not what this game's about.
So right after I came back and started playing again, it actually let me make some decisions.
Yeah.
And a lot of the decisions are the poetry.
Yeah.
In this game, particularly. It's you're writing poems. And so the mechanic is you pick 20 words. And there are little, chibi icons of the girls next to you, stickers, and when you click a word, one of the little girls kind of gets excited and jumps and is excited that you picked
Yay.
her word, so you can kind of see if you're picking right and marching down the path. Okay, so you're going to explain to me why I didn't get to pick who I sat next to?
Yep, that's Monica's fault. So that was Monica, because she has been altering the code since the literature club was created. The gimmick in this game is that when you are president of the literature club, you gain self-awareness that you are in a video game.
Okay.
And that was her first figuring out she can influence your decisions. And
by making me sit there.
by making you not be able to choose.
But then why didn't she make me sit next to her?
That is her... Well, I don't know if at that point she knew that she was a side character. So she was just being like, okay, well, I'll have him sit next to Sayori.
Yeah, when he meets these other girls and then falls for me later, it'll be all the more impactful.
Yes, and it will be, it's like the game from a writing standpoint.
Yeah.
It is the game foreshadowing that later your agency of your decisions is going to be taken over.
Oh, interesting.
So that is foreshadowing.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll buy that. Well done. It's definitely a very subtle game in a lot of ways, a very not subtle game in a lot of other ways. But it is very much like Presley's talking about the at least one character in the game at any given point is sentient. Mm-hmm. And so they know that they're like, I actually have the side theory. I'm still sort of leaning on my side theory a little bit, but that's the one I told you.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll talk about that later. So the idea is that one of the characters in the video game, one of the girls that you're trying to woo, is
jeez, I haven't heard that word in forever.
She's sentient and she knows she's in a video game and she wants you to pick her. Mm-hmm. And so when you do something that is not leading towards picking her, she has the ability to change the game.
Yeah.
Which is super, super, super clever. And she goes back. This is actually a little bit of a throwback mechanic. Like, you may not know that, right? But there are examples of things that edit the file system, even games that edit their own file system and their files, and you have to dig into the files a little bit to fix them and play them. And so she's actually changing the code, and you get actual code errors that display on the screen, and you don't have to, but a lot of times you can go look at the file system under the cover and see that she made changes and different things happened, and she actually goes so far as to delete other girls. So you find like the character screens for the girls, and you can go in and she will in various ways she will get rid of the other girls, and they will disappear from the game in horrible fashion, but then they'll just be totally gone, right?
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, the deleting is actually after they die, by the way.
Well, so she's deleting them from the story by having them commit suicide. Mm-hmm. And then after they've committed suicide, everything kind of goes sideways and it's all depressing and it doesn't feel like a fun game anymore. So she resets the game without that girl being in it anymore. Mm-hmm. So that the girl that committed suicide is just gone. And so it turns into like It's a Wonderful Life in the beginning, which is going to be one of your assignments coming up here for Christmas probably, or we're at least going to watch it for Christmas. But it's this idea of, I want to commit suicide because the world would be better off without me. And so this guy gets to see what the world would be like had he never been born. Cool. The world is not as good a place because of all the things that he did in his life that he didn't realize he was doing, all the people he touched, right? And so I thought it was really going that, especially at the beginning, because Sayori is the first girl that you lose. And like they say a couple of times in the first loop through the story that she's the one that kind of holds everybody together and keeps everybody happy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you get rid of her, now you're going to see the club without her influence, and it's going to be a more cutthroat kind of thing. And it was. No, it totally was. But the story wasn't really about that. And like maybe you start leaning towards one of the other girls, and so Monica has to come in again and tweak the story to make things go a little sideways. And so I thought that was actually really fascinating. Like, it's a beautifully executed game.
Right.
And while it does take a while for it to get to where it needs to be telling its real story and kind of doing the thing that is interesting about it, it does that for a reason. Like I said, it's really kind of lulling you in and pulling you into this like monotony of the repetitious version of the storytelling, and then suddenly things go sideways.
Yeah.
And they do it with really cool glitchy graphic mechanics that I kind of
and
like, and creepy music. The music is all like, normally here I'll play the Doki Doki theme again because it's all like peppy and Doki Doki. Very kawaii. And so it even changes relatively subtly while you're playing sometimes. Like you can tell the music changes and like it switches to a minor key and it changes a couple of different levels and then the music will stop and it'll go silent. And like I was telling Presley, like when the music stops,
Never a good thing.
Yeah, you probably don't want to click next until you're prepared because you don't know what's about to happen. And you get static and you get the characters kind of overlay over the dialogue. Like it's really beautifully done.
If you play something on that computer, will it play regardless, even if it's not a sample?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, because I do want you to play the theme for Sayori's Suicide. I think you're going to love the name of it. It's called Sayonara.
That's cute. That's cute. You have to tell me that kind of stuff before we start the podcast, though, so that I can cue it up and prep it because I don't have it ready to go.
Yes. I didn't think of it until now.
Yes, you don't always have everything on your board.
Whoops.
That's it. We'll put it on the board and we'll have it queued up so that we can play stuff to go back to people. Because I think every once in a while, people who watch a long time should be able to go back and see like references to older stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because we'll play the.
It's from Japan.
Even though we haven't covered that.
We haven't covered Be More Chill yet.
Yeah, no, we played it a lot.
I insisted that was on the soundboard.
This is my soundboard thing that I haven't gotten to use yet, but I'll go ahead and play it.
Please don't correct me. It sickens me.
I love that line. So yeah, if you tell me, you post in the comments below if you know where that's from, because I love it. It's one of my favorite things. All right, cool. So yeah, I thought like that's super, super cool. I also thought that in looking at my notes here, I've got there's some elements of Adventure Zone.
Yeah.
Like things tie together, right? Things always kind of come in and you see connections between the media that you're consuming. And this one was definitely
everything is connected.
Yeah, right. So once she deletes one of the characters, if they mention her name again or mention an event that happened maybe in the cycle that you restarted and didn't happen in this one, it just posts garbage on the screen. And it's very much like it's from Adventure Zone.
I'm pretty sure it's like the specific thing, which is like something that you might not know, is moji baka, which is a very common issue when trying to process Japanese text on a computer that's meant for running English text.
No, that's not at all what I was thinking. So what I was thinking was the pointer to Sayori's name still exists.
But there's nothing.
No, that exists, but there's something else stored in that memory location now.
Yeah.
So when it tries to go grab her name out of memory and display it on the screen, it's displaying like binary.
Yeah. That's what that's probably what it is. That's the issue with Moji Baka, though. That's like what it is. There are pointers to where the Japanese character should be.
Yeah, but there's kind of a different thing, right? Where if you get the encoding for Japanese characters. And yeah, you're displaying the encoding basically because you don't have the mapping to the Japanese characters on your PC. Yeah, I was assuming that was not the case here because we did see some Japanese characters. Yeah, I was just assuming it was like binary. Like basically that what's happening, and from CS50 now, is that if you have a pointer to a memory location that stores Sayori's name and you delete her name, then the computer will use that memory to write something else there. And if you're still pointing at that location and you say, go get what's at this location and write it to the screen right here, it's going to just display garbage.
Point is, Monica's a bad programmer.
Monica doesn't have careful memory management techniques.
Monica.
She might see this is why you started with C++ instead of starting with Python. Because now you know under the covers what's going on with your memory management.
This was written
in Python, right? So you shouldn't have that bad at memory management stuff if you're doing it in Python.
Gosh, Monica.
That's another thing. Come on, Monica. How can you not code in Python? Good grief. All right, so the Adventure Zone, like a memory wiping mechanic, and like you can't say something because you get the when you try and say it. It was totally like that. I thought it was funny. I think it is super, super funny and cute when they start cussing. I don't know.
This is something I brought up to Mom before in different ways. Right. Like, I love the way this person curses.
Well, like, Mommy knows that one of my favorite things in the world is toddler profanity.
It is amazing. She's just like silently facepalming.
I don't know why, but I think it's super funny. Like
it's adorable.
When Cooper is running around cussing, or when Presley was cussing when she was a little kid, or when I see a little kid cussing, I think it's funny. And so this, like, they're in like high school, right? But they're super cute, kawaii, like chibi kind of things, moe. And so, when they start cussing, it's really funny because they've built it up so far that you understand their personalities and their speech patterns, and you feel like you know a lot about them, which is the whole point of a dating sim, right? Is that you know these girls and you can kind of pick and choose what to do. But then they start cussing and doing stuff, and I think it's super, super funny.
Yes.
And it's a Natsuki that really kind of starts.
Yeah,
she's the most foul-mouthed of the
Natsuki
group.
Reminds me a lot of myself,
and she's also like the chibiest, right?
Yeah,
she's the kawaii girl for sure.
She's Lil, and she's really. and she's kind of mean, and she has pink hair, and she tries to act cute, but is
when
really
he sees her out of school
mean.
and she's got like the cat dress on,
Yeah.
and there's all this stuff going. Yeah, it's super.
She reminds me of me. I like
Yeah,
her.
she was the most. Yeah, she was probably the most like you out of the group.
Angry, small.
Yeah, so Yuri's like the emo girl.
She's goth, not emo.
Yeah, I don't know. I might go emo for her, but what's the difference between goth and emo?
Emo.
Let's go ahead and have that conversation.
All right. Emo is like emo is more
Nihilistic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it pronounced that? Oh my God, cutting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah. Just
very
don't
passionate.
scream. Yeah.
Why is it pronounced that way? That's stupid. Anyway, nihilism. It's like she's just emo is leaning more towards like scene, and you have big there's like hair, and there's nihilism, and it's Panic at the Disco and like runny eyeliner, while goth is just like a darker, more like Victorian form of dress and stuff like
Right,
that.
but like emo being like the emotional part of the darkness, where goth is slightly more the aesthetic form
Yes.
of the darkness.
Of the darkness.
it
They're
didn't-
different darknesses.
It didn't strike you that she was emotionally dark?
But she's both. But she dresses. But she like her
She
hair.
didn't super. I mean, they're in school
and-
uniforms.
Well, yeah, but like clearly from her hair and from the way she speaks is more gothic, because she does speak with all the big fancy words.
I think of more emo being someone who does self-harm than
Yes.
a goth person.
But
And she's the self-harm person in the
But she
game.
doesn't do it because she has depression. She does it because it's her kink. Yeah.
Is that established?
That was established.
I don't know that that's true.
I'm pretty sure that was. Well, she says it.
I think it's a little of both.
Yeah, if she says she does.
It's more a
say-
calming thing than a depression thing.
Yeah, she does say like.
When she gets manic, she does it to calm herself down.
And in her, like, use the note that is like covered in blood and stuff that she gives you before her confession.
Yeah.
That does say have some very sexual stuff at the end of it, because it's mostly random words and then it has some
Yeah,
more.
sure. I thought it was more. Was it Monica or one of the other girls that was saying stuff about it being her kink as
Yes,
a way to
that was
put her
Monica.
down more than it was actually.
Of course it was Monica.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that was a. That was I like that part. I'm going emo.
Woo,
I'm going
emo.
So she's the emo girl, and then Monica is the like all American Japanese girl. She's the like A student that's the most beautiful girl in the school, and she's probably an athlete. I think it said something about her doing some sort of sporting of some sort.
Sports?
Yeah,
Oh.
she does sports. So that was funny. So games that keep track of things on the file system, I think, are super cool. Having to kind of look into the files, and then we'll talk in here in a second about the YouTube video that you had me watch.
Yeah.
That was kind of a bunch of the different endings, and like what this one person had found. I think there's probably more. But
there's
the
more.
different scenarios of you going in and deleting characters, or you adding back characters after she deletes them, or doing all kinds of things with it, or looking at some of the files with a hex editor, and or converting them to JPEGs and looking and they turn
Yes.
into images. Like it's really
And at the
really
very
super
end
creative.
of this conversation, I do have some very specific stuff to bring up.
Yeah.
About hidden in the stuff that's hidden.
Yeah, no, I'm going to turn it over to you in 1 second. I got one more point, and then it's all you. So this is one of the things I was thinking that was kind of old school. There's this game, like Metal Gear Solid, right? You're familiar with its existence, at least, I assume. And this
I
is...
watched you play Metal Gear.
Yeah. So this is one of the first things Mommy and I did when, like, in college. They had, like, the things would pop up and the two people would have a conversation. Like, Snake would have his radio comm communication with a girl back at base. And so while I was playing the game, Mommy and I would, like, act those out, like, voice act. That we would turn the volume down on the PlayStation, and I would play Snake's part, and she would play I can't remember her name, that was back on the radio set at the headquarters.
Random
And so
girl too.
we would laugh and like read those things out and do that. That's when I knew that Mommy was the one for me. But we used to do that when I played Metal Gear. But one of the other things that happened in one of the old Metal Gear games, and this was Psycho Mantis. So
I
when you
knew
first
it was.
encounter like Psycho Mantis, there was a game mechanic where Psycho Mantis could read your mind, and so whenever you tried to attack him, you or her, I can't remember now.
Them.
It would they would be able to perfectly block your attack because they would know what your attack was. So they would sort of call you out as you played a little bit and be like, I know what you're going to do and I can control, watch what I can do. And then it would vibrate the controller because like having the vibration in the controller was a relatively new mechanic. And so you could see that they had control over that controller. And so the primary way that you would beat them is you would switch to the player 2 controller, and they couldn't read your mind if you were on the player 2 controller.
So
and so you could beat them
cool.
up, right? So that was like a super cool little mechanics
that's
of like
awesome.
breaking the fourth wall in a video game, in one of my favorite video games. And so it really kind of was a throwback to that kind of stuff too. So there was a lot of nostalgia in the game for me as like a throwback to, like, I love that it's about the story and the sort of the mechanics of the game, and it's not about, you know, I'm playing Assassin's Creed Origin right now, right? And while that's a really fun game to play, right, it's more about the flash and the graphics and what you can do visually and like how you can build up these huge worlds and things. And like I love this small, intimate game that's well designed, and you don't care that it's not high-end graphics, and I'm not playing it in the PlayStation VR, and I'm not. It's just a really compelling like storytelling.
Yeah, VR.
That would be even
I
worse.
really hope not.
No, that wouldn't be good. Okay, cool.
Especially if everything was still like in the super moe adorable.
Yeah. Of course, it would have to be, right? And then maybe you
Yeah.
turn around and there's something happening behind you or something. You could totally pull that off. Okay, all right, go ahead. What's up?
Anyway, okay. So some of my points. I have the TV tropes page and my own personal notes, so I'm going to be switching between those with
go.
my phone. So let's start with my personal notes, and then we'll start talking about the TV tropes page, just like the mooch. We're being just like, and I have way too many notes. Okay, so some of this is just me. I watched you play a lot of this because I did want to see some of your reactions.
Yep.
And a lot of the stuff that one thing that you said that I just thought was really funny was when we were first playing the game, you were being extremely snarky about the entire premise of the entire game because you didn't know. You thought I was just making you play a normal dating sim. So you were being so like you were replying to everything that happened.
It took it a while to get to not being a dating sim. I'll say that again.
Fair point. And one of the things that you kept saying was that you wanted to romance the cupcakes, which I thought was very funny. You were like, I was like, okay, so which route are you going to pick? Because I wanted to know so that I could prepare, because you actually did end up going, because in the second act, Natsuki's route, like while I love Natsuki, and I'm actually doing Natsuki's route first in my Golden End playthrough, Natsuki's Act 2 end is boring, about as boring as you can get in this game.
So me switching from Natsuki to Yuri was a good thing.
Yes, because the Natsuki's end is just you're forced to talk to Yuri at one point in the Act 2 anyways. And if you do that during Natsuki's route, she'll get jealous and beg you to only play with her instead, and then her neck breaks and she flies at the screen, and then that's her ending.
Oh, I saw that in the
Yeah.
video I watched. It was a cool visual.
It was a really cool visual,
Yeah,
but it wasn't
yeah.
like super thing. So
Sure.
I kept
She didn't
asking
rot
you.
in the classroom over the weekend.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
sad. But
All right, go
but
ahead.
actually, let's talk about the rotting for a second.
Okay.
Because makes me so happy, which is a really weird thing to talk about. But the color from her eyes fades. She starts losing fat, and her cheekbones start hollowing out, and her blood starts turning brown.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is Yuri we're talking about after her suicide.
By stabbing
there's
herself
like a
in the
really
chest multiple
fast
times.
like time lapse shot of her sitting in the classroom
Over the weekend.
and yeah,
Decomposing.
there are changes happening that Presley just described. Yeah,
Yes,
it's actually,
and it makes me so happy that
little detail-oriented.
happens.
Yeah.
Because all the time in art like this, blood stays like just crimson red.
Right.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
How
No.
It's so much so that it has its own TV tropes page.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah. Anyway, you wanted to romance the cupcakes, which I felt was relatable. I like the cupcakes. And then there was
I would have sat next to the cupcakes if they gave me that first choice.
sit next to the cupcake. Natsuki would be mad at you for eating all her cupcakes. And then there was in Monica's first poem in the first act,
Okay.
which is Hole in the Wall.
Yeah.
One of the things she says is a hole of infinite choices. And in her song that plays over the credits,
Yep.
which I'm actually going to cover next, hint, hint, wink, wink,
Nice.
is in this world of infinite choices. So there are a lot of, and then she says, like Monica's first writing tip in both Act 1 and 2 is
The ink
you'll get a
will pool.
puddle.
If you stop, you'll get a puddle of ink from the pen.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then in the song it says the ink flows down into a dark puddle.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I was like, hey,
Yeah. No, there were
it's
nice connections. Like,
foreshadowing.
well thought out. Yeah.
Oh, and then,
Foreshadowing.
and then there is you picked Sayori last, you imbecile. Just me being very upset that you picked Sayori last. She's
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there was the whole, like, cute best friend neighbor kind of thing. And I didn't feel appropriate romancing her because we had this.
Best friend.
It was like your Highlander thing, right? Like, I felt like I had known her for a long time. And it would have been kind of weird, like you felt about what you thought was going on with a Highlander.
Child.
You're right,
and he was an adult. That's so different.
Right,
But that is actually a very. I can't believe you didn't pick up on that because that's a very, 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 very common anime trope that you have the tsundere best friend.
Oh no!
From forever
that
ago.
doesn't mean that's the
like a
choice I
normal
wanted to
thing.
make.
Right.
Like, I got it. I
Understandable.
chose not to be comfortable with it.
And you didn't. And you kept picking Sayori last. But you did get this super duper uncomfortable Sayori event, which her first CG, and CG is the like full illustration that pops up on the screen when you're having a bonding moment.
Right.
I cradled you
A
in
meet
my
cute?
arms. Maybe it might be a meet cute.
We totally had some meet cute.
Obscure podcast references.
Right.
It's not a meet cute. Also, please let us know in the comments below if you know what a meet cute is.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate about whether people actually know what a meet cute is.
I know what a
or
meat
not.
cute is.
I've never heard of a
To
meet
be
cute.
fair, I
until I
read
listened to that
fanfiction a lot.
podcast. I did not know what a meet cute. I mean, I'm sure you can assume what a meet cute is, but
That's exactly what it says
have you
within.
heard of it before we just said it?
A meet cute. And then you got Sayori's super uncomfortable event where you're like because the main character that you play, he's really mean. I hate him. He's terrible. Bob. Yeah, you named him Bob. I was like, why'd you name him Bob?
Right.
And you didn't capitalize it, which bothered me the entire time.
It kind of ended up bothering me the whole time. Like, you know how easy it is to capitalize a word.
You just press shift.
Once again, Monica's not a very good programmer. No. I mean, if I put it in lowercase, they should have been able to display it in uppercase.
I know. Well, that wasn't Monica's fault. That's
Monica
Team
should have fixed
Salvato's
that.
fault.
Well, I bet it was something that Monica broke.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Whatever. It's just I didn't give myself my actual name though. I gave myself a nickname.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it does later in the game.
Bob's kind of a jerk.
Yeah, Bob is mean. And Bob is complaining to Sayori, like, your hair's messed up, and there's a toothpaste stain on your collar, and I'm gonna do your buttons up. And I'm like, how about you don't?
Yeah, that was all kind of weird, dude.
That was so awkward, and
that didn't make me more comfortable, like, going down Sayori's path.
No.
For sure. Because that was a
it made
whole
me
uncomfortable
really-
kind of thing, too.
That
I
was-
was glad I wasn't going down that path if that creepiness was happening.
Yeah, that made me super duper uncomfortable, and it's just because Bob is mean, and I don't like Bob. Or Maddie Patty, as the stream I watched. They named it Maddie Patty. And
Bob's kind of mean.
Bob is terrible. And then you got, which I thought was hilarious because this is a very jump scare-y game. You got jump scared by a cookie being thrown at Sayori. And
Yeah, I did.
You
Well, it was an
audibly
audio
made a
thing.
noise.
No, she made a noise.
Yeah.
And it was like no one had made any noise, I think, up to that point.
Yeah.
Like, it was just music the whole game. And all of a sudden you hear this, ah! And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? Yeah.
It's just a cookie.
Yeah.
And then the audio starts making many noises.
And then there's audio cues. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was
And
gonna
I
say
think, like,
something.
the Yuri's thing, too, right? Like, her self-harm thing. You see it twice, and
Yeah.
it rewinds, which was really cool, like, going through
Yeah.
the rewind and
I
playing it
love-
again. But I think,
remember
I have to go back and watch it again and play through it again. But it seems like the first time it happened, you got the text of her noises. And
Yeah.
the second time, you actually got audio of it. I think they didn't do audio of it the first time, and
They
they
did
did
not.
the second time. I thought that was, again, sort of a clever thing that they did. Yep.
Yes. And I thought that was really cool. And then I just want to talk about the audio for a little bit because the audio is so good in this game.
Yep.
So a few audio things. So there's Sayonara, which is Sayori's hanging song.
And did you get that Monica said,
Yeah,
you
she
really
said,
left her hanging this morning? Ba-da-bum.
but
They need a rim shot
But,
in the game, right?
it was amazing.
Yeah, so her hanging theme song.
Yeah, her hanging theme song mood. And so it's the glitching effects because it starts out as just
Love the glitching effects.
yes, it starts out as "Okay Everyone," which is the theme song. It starts out as just "Okay Everyone."
The one we just listened to?
Yes.
Okay.
Sayori's version, because each girl has a different version of it.
Oh, that's interesting.
So when you're like reading her poem or having a CG with her, it will play a different it will play like a different version with different instruments of Okay Everyone.
Okay.
Yay! Doki Doki! And then I have to do the really obnoxious nya hand thing.
Do you want to go ahead and say what Doki Doki means, just in case anybody listening doesn't actually know what the
Doki
words
Doki
mean?
is the sound of a heartbeat, and I keep confusing it with Toki Doki. It's Doki Doki.
Doki Doki. So it's like Japanese onomatopoeia
of a heartbeat.
Of a heartbeat. Like if you're excited,
you say Doki Doki.
Doki Doki. You know, my heart's pounding. It kind of means my heart's beating really fast, like
heart is pounding.
And it can be like I'm scared or my heart's fluttering because I'm falling in love or something. It's just your heart's beating really fast.
Right. You're
Doki Doki.
Scared because you're falling in love.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's. Or you can do it super cutesy.
I wish every time you had a heartbeat, it would just go Doki Doki.
That's what it does in manga. That's the sound. Yeah, like if you're reading a comic book and you see like the pals and blams and kapows and stuff and the sound effects in the comic book, Doki Doki is what you would see in manga if someone's heart is beating. Like if they're hidden or somebody's breaking in the house and for some reason they're really scared of something that's happening, you'll see Doki Doki. Or if they see the girl that they like, there'll be a little Doki Doki.
And that's the context in which it means this time. It doesn't mean someone.
I don't know. I think maybe a little of both. Yeah. Quite frankly, I think it may be a little. Whenever the music stopped and I had to click to the next scene, there was a little Doki Doki going on because of the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then actually in the logo, if you look at the logo, the Doki Doki is really close together to the point where the two O's form to make an infinity sign.
Oh, that's cute.
That's cool.
Okay, I'll look at
that
again.
It's a design thing.
Okay.
And then
they love to do that, like stylized writing in Japanese. Like there's a whole article that we've got in one of the manga zines that we've got about using stylized kana and kanji, and they dig that.
That's cool.
So doing it in Romanji, but for Japanese words, is kind of a meta like play.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. And then what was it? Oh, the music. Yes, in Sayonara, it starts out as Okay Everyone, and then it starts glitching really heavily. I can play it on my phone.
No,
I think it would work. Whatever, it's cool. And it starts glitching and freaking out, and that was my first instance, the first thing I really picked up on of the music really heavily glitching.
Right.
And then in Yuri's suicide/confession scene, you can hear really heavy like breathing in the audio, which made me super uncomfortable, like it was supposed to. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. So sort of speaking of that, like one of the things that I really loved most visually was when like Monica like slowly transitioned through, was that Yuri?
Yeah, through Yuri.
Like Yuri's talking to you, and again, it's just a still image, and then you sort of see this like faint eye in the middle of Yuri's face, and then slowly over time, Monica starts fading in, and then she kind of fades in front and just keeps coming. That was a really well done.
And
like as you're clicking through it, you slowly see this thing move forward. I thought that was beautifully done.
Right, and I do want to really quickly mention this is something I wanted to talk about a little bit earlier but forgot about. This plays into one of my favorite like ideas. I've seen it in I haven't seen it before this game, but having a side character, because Monica was designed to just be a side character, and you would have Natsuki, Yuri, and Sayori's routes to go down.
Right.
Having a side character become sentient and what they would do
to try and take over the game.
Yeah, and like whether they would try and take over the game or they would just have to live knowing they were and everyone around them was programmed.
Right.
And this does tie into the discussion that we keep saying we're gonna have about like being in virtual worlds, like being a human in a virtual world, like the Matrix and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we keep saying we're gonna have the discussion, and then we don't. We will. I promise.
We will.
But yeah, and it does tie into that, and the difference between Sayori becoming sentient and Monica becoming sentient is really interesting, because Monica takes over the game and is trying to get you to pick just Monica.
Yeah.
Just Monica.
Well, and it looked like with sort of the happy ending kind of thing, right? That it's even like under the covers, it's keeping track of like your saved games, and so even if it drops clues. Like it does a good job of dropping clues, right? Because it sort of dropped this clue that like, hey, if you're about to make an important decision, maybe you should save just in case things go wrong. I don't remember what context.
That was one of Monica's writing tips.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
It was,
Monica.
Click the save button.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like
she's giving you an inside fourth wall hint.
Monica's writing tips was said like after she was when she was trying to do a writing tip sometime in Act 2, she's like, "Can you hear me? Please help me." I didn't just say that.
Yeah.
So it's not Monica saying.
Okay.
It's just
Yeah, I got you.
a thing.
So, I got you. Okay, so she's coming over. So you can save before a decision and make one path and like go with one of the girls and then go back and do it with one of the other girls and then go back and do it with the third girl, and you get credit for trying all the branches and pathways through the game, and that's what makes Sayori happy, right?
Yeah, so it gives you the golden
you make
ending.
everybody happy. Yeah.
Which is the ending
that's
of the-
again super clever that it keeps track of the fact that you saved and went back and restarted.
I don't know what that just was. No. I'm pretty sure that sound effect is used like in Webkins or something.
Yeah, it's somebody at
sounds
work
so
trying to talk to me on Slack.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Work people.
Cool. Okay, so let's wrap up Doki Doki and move on to El Radio.
Doki Doki.
Doki Doki was excellent.
Okay, last thing I want to bring up, which is very much important, is the .ch, the character files that you delete and manipulate during the game.
Yep.
Those can be, actually, they have codes in them. So the most important one is Sayori's, which gives you, if you translate it into an OGG file, which is their audio files, and then you look at the spectrograph of it, it gives you a QR code.
Oh, cool.
And that QR code goes to project, if it will play, if my phone will stop misbehaving.
Generally good to be prepared for these kinds of things.
It made me reload the page. Yes. Project Bat.
What is it?
Libidina, which is theorized to be Team Salvalto's next game.
Oh, okay.
And there is a lot of foreshadowing about it, which is, it talks about a third eye, and it gives you this, like, the website is, like, this subject X, and, like, that was born in 2004, which was 1 year before me. It was my age. And it gives you, like, a subject, like, sort of, do you know about the SCP thing? SCP Foundation?
No.
It's a extremely popular, like, creepypasta website where it's, like, this subject X, and it gives you these test readings.
Yeah.
And they're all, like, human Russian sleep experiment type things.
Yeah, whatever. I got you.
That. And it's theorized that Yuri's book that she gives to you with the eye on the cover ties into that.
Oh,
and
interesting.
It's about this girl who is tracked down and captured by this organization that tries to change them into bloodlusting monsters. And one of the
she
test
describes
readings,
the book as that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the test readings is threat control and removal.
Okay.
So it's theorized that book
Wait, so like that QR code takes you to a website that references some of that in some way?
And then in Monica, Yuri, and Natsuki, and specifically in Monica's file, it does talk more about third eyes and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So that's what I wanted to bring up. That is
Awesome.
possibly
hints to the next
game, and at the end of Monica's file, there is a 2018.
Nice.
Meaning that more information will probably be released in 2018. So make sure to stay tuned for that, because I know a lot of the audience for Doki Doki Literature Club, because Doki Doki Literature Club is probably meant to be hype for the next game where they're going to explore these concepts further.
Was that their first project?
Yes.
Okay.
Where it's going to explore, well, not the guy himself. He's worked on other things, but the company, yes. Will eventually move on to other things and do a game where they explore it further. But and Doki Doki Literature Club was just meant to be hype for that.
Yeah, no, I love when companies do. So it was what was the horror game that did that?
Which one? PT?
Yeah.
PT. Panda Time.
Yeah, PT was supposed to be like a teaser for Resident Evil, right?
And then it never actually
And then it never ended up happening. I think it was cool. And then there was, like, I love when companies do sort of the whole Easter egg kind of thing, and then they lead you down a breadcrumb trail that takes you, gives you a bunch of information. And so,
Sombre's ARG was really cool.
what was the movie that did that? It was the Cloverfield. So Cloverfield.
That's the thing that Zaragoza
I know,
talks
he
about.
loves Cloverfield, right? But so Cloverfield had this whole super complex world of websites, and you look at the source code, and you find a link, and you go somewhere else, and you get a login, and you have to hack into this website to learn more, and you learn all of these things about all of the stuff that's going on in the background of the world, and then you go see the movie, and it had nothing to do with any of it.
Oh my god, really?
It was like a total waste of it. Like, I was so excited and so into it, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna understand this movie in a way that other people aren't, because I spent all this time digging through this thing, and then no, nothing. It was a waste.
I thought Cloverfield was a TV show. Like it had a big universe.
No. It was a movie.
Well, maybe they talked.
And then there's 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was a movie that came out recently that's sort of in the universe, I suppose. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing.
Anyway, Overwatch did that with Sombra's release, which is
cool.
exactly what you're talking about. There were links to Lumerica's website, and then you had to hack into the president's account and send an email and delete emails and all of that
that's
kind
really
of
cool.
stuff.
Like that's super clever.
That's cool. It's called an ARG, alternate reality game.
Yeah, like that viral marketing kind of thing. It's a
Yeah,
super
it's
clever
really cool.
thing to do.
And yes, Doki Doki Literature Club is probably meant to build up hype for Project whatever, I can't pronounce it.
I loved it. Thank you, Presley, for sharing it with me and having me play it. I had a good time. I really enjoyed it.
Make sure when there's more information released to please check out their next game because
We'll say something here.
it's important.
We'll keep you posted.
Yes.
All right, let's go to El Radio.
Woo! Are you gonna do the bridge thing?
No, we're gonna do the bridge thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. No bridge thing.
Yeah.
Woot.
Let's go to El Radio.
Yeah.
What do you got on El Radio?
All right. So El Radio is so unbelievably underrated. It makes me so angry.
Is it underrated compared to his first album, or is it just overrated in general?
Not overrated, underrated in general. And actually, one of the songs on this album, "Dirty Night Clowns," is extremely popular, and it's been used in I know the Homestuck fandom. Please don't try and talk to me about Homestuck though. I read half of it and got bored. So I don't know anything about Homestuck because apparently nothing happens in the first half of Homestuck.
I could have said exactly the same thing about Doki Doki Literature Club.
Right. Like nothing happens in the first half of Homestuck, and no one will let me skip. But whatever. Homestuck rant over. It's been used very popularly in the Homestuck and Undertale fandoms.
Dirty Night Clowns has.
Dirty Night Clowns.
Like AMVs and stuff, or just.
Yep.
All right.
Edgy AMVs.
That's right. Okay.
Woo!
All right. Cool.
So it's been used a bunch in both of those fandoms, but no one ever checks out the rest of his work, which makes me really mad because it's beautiful.
That wasn't the best song on the album.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was not the best song in the album, but it's the one that is.
It's a good one.
Yes, it's good.
I like the lyrics to it, and it's good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it was the best one on the album.
It's the one that relates to Gamzee.
I don't know what that means.
That's a Homestuck character.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I think it's that one. He's the clown one, right? I know my friend really likes him. So.
No idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, this actually, there was a little bit of a tie-in, I thought, that made it interesting that we were doing this with Doki Doki because it's poetry, right?
Yeah.
The lyrics, it's very much, to me, it was poetry that was set to music more than it was songs.
Right.
Like, it didn't feel totally like they were written to be songs as much as they were written as standalone poems and then they were put to music. And so even a lot of the poetry in Doki Doki reminded me of some of the lyrics from this track. Because it was kind of, I could see taking almost any of these songs and putting them in something like Doki Doki or reading them in a poetry class or a literature club, and they would fit right in.
Yeah.
So I put like more poetry than songs even.
Makes me want to start a literature club.
And it also, before we go into like song by song kind of stuff, it introduced me to the genre, but it introduced me to the word for the label for the genre, and that was chamber pop.
Yeah.
Which I think is awesome. It's a great name.
Yes.
So it's like a pop version of chamber music.
Yeah.
And so it's like a cross between chamber music and easy listening, which I thought was kind of funny. And it's kind of people rebelling against like the dirty sound of alternative music and like grunge and stuff like that, like the lo-fi recording kind of stuff. It's people that are kind of revolting against that revolting. They're revolting. They so it's people that are going the opposite direction and going with like nice, clean, orchestrated music, and then so you get like the orchestral part of it, which it does include strings and horns and things like that. But then they also take the easy listening part and they strip that stuff down to its essence. So it's relatively simple melodies, but structured like an orchestral kind of arrangement.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really awesome.
It's
and I think they also
so
call it
good.
orc pop, which I think
Orc
is a great
pop.
name. Yeah, like orchestra.
Orc.
So it's orc pop. I think
It's
orc
pop
pop
for
is an
orcs.
awesome. Yeah, chamber pop is a better name, but orc pop is. I like orc
It's
pop a
pop
lot.
for orcs.
So I think it was. I loved that, and that got me down a whole rabbit hole of listening
Chamber
to
pop.
other, like searching for chamber pop and
Yeah,
listening to a
it's
bunch
so
of chamber
cool.
pop bands. So it's definitely fits in my kind of genre. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. And then it is one of my favorite albums, definitely. And it's just like, it's all by him. It's all
You can
by
tell.
Chris.
Like it definitely sounds like it's one person's pet project. I don't know for a fact, but I would not be surprised if he played all the instruments and sort of did all the work. You can tell it's one person because it's a singular vision. And so it feels like one person certainly composed it. Whether he played everything or not, I don't know. But I would not be surprised to find that he actually just layered himself on top of everything and did everything for it. Yeah.
Right. And it's just, like, it's all his. And it's all, like, oddly enough, the simplicity of it makes all of the lyrics and singing so much more heart-wrenching. Like, I've cried listening to this album multiple times.
Yeah, like one of the reviews I read of it was talking about like his androgynous voice.
Yeah.
And that it's very airy and
it's a good voice.
Some people, and on a couple of songs in a couple of places, I agree, felt like it was a little affected. Like it didn't feel supernatural. It felt like he was playing a character singing the song instead of him sort of purely from himself singing the song. Most of the time it felt like it was just him. But a couple of times it kind of felt like it was an affect that he was putting on that felt a little disingenuous in a couple of places to me.
Yeah.
And one of the reviews mentioned that, and I thought that was true. And that was one of their main criticisms of this album versus Music for Tourists?
Yes,
Music
for Tourists.
Music for Tourists they felt was a little more pure him, and that this was a little more like intentionally marketed and designed and composed in a way that Music for Tourists was just him making music that he wanted to make and loved. And I haven't listened to Music for Tourists, so I can't comment on that specifically. But I did feel a little affected in a couple of places.
I will mention that in Music for Tourists, it's very, very similar. Specifically in a song, First Place, it is a very big example of what I was talking about a second ago, where like the music is so simple, but he's almost like his voice sounds like it's almost crying at one point, and that just makes it so much better. And it happens in this album too. And this is the first one I got into. I actually got into it entirely because of Spotify. I don't use Spotify anymore, but I have to give the one thing I will give credit to Spotify for is that it did introduce me to this album, and because I was just listening to my mix, and Spotify likes to play song glitched out for me a lot and started playing songs that weren't on my playlist. And one of them was this song because I had Dirty Night Clowns on my playlist because I obviously knew about that one. And then it started playing the other songs, and I thought it was bop. It was a jam. It was a bop, and I loved it, so I added it too. So I started listening to it a lot more.
Sweet.
And
all right, do you want to talk about any of the individual songs?
Let's go in order, I guess. And you have your notes on them, right?
Yeah, I've got a list here.
Here, I'll pull them up on my phone then too.
Okay.
I'm trying to avoid picking up my phone because you can hear it. It's really loud.
Yeah, sure.
So you can start off while I pull up my notes.
Yeah, so it starts with the Leaving song.
Yeah.
And I actually don't have anything for the Leaving song.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I think I listened to the Leaving song in Dirty Night Clowns and then started taking notes at Raw and Awake, and I went back and plugged in some notes for Dirty Night Clowns, but I didn't do anything for the Leaving song.
Well, let me talk about the Leaving song, because it's one
of
of my favorites.
Yeah, you take the point on the Leaving song.
So the Leaving song, I cried.
I think also on the Leaving song, if you look at Genius, where the lyrics are, they don't have all the lyrics in there. It's really kind of weird. Yeah.
Is it one of those things where it's like, it says, then do the chorus and then do the bridge? Like, that happened a couple times in Guns N' Roses.
No, it was just they weren't all there.
Oh, weird. Okay, so the Leaving song is the first one. I thought it was the last one for some reason. I think it's the last one on Spotify, but it might be the first one on YouTube.
Yeah, I think it's the first one. And the album is actually divided into seasons.
Yeah.
Like 3 songs each, I think. And it's kind of the classic seasons kind of thing, just like when we did, I guess that was Imagine Dragons.
Yeah.
They're like songs about the fall, waiting for the fall, and
summer,
the summer
fall.
And stuff. Yeah, so
Cool.
singing about seasons is not an uncommon thing. But this album, and like when Guns N' Roses was divided in the G side and the R side, this has the seasons, and I think each of the 3 songs is a season: spring, summer, fall, winter. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the Leaving song was the I have cried during this song several times. And it's just because usually I listen to this album a lot when I'm going to sleep, and I'm very over-emotional when I'm about to fall asleep. So I have cried during this song several times. I think it's just like a really beautiful and I almost said terrible. Like, it's not a terrible song, but the lyrics are singing about like a kind of terrible thing.
Right.
She's singing about the character is singing about someone like leaving her for good and like abandoning her. And I keep saying her.
Yeah, I was going to point out the exact same thing. Like you're assuming that the perspective is from a girl.
Okay, this is because I have planned out half of an AMV to this for one of my OCs.
Okay.
So I keep talking about it in her head.
I got you. Okay.
Don't worry, I'm not talking about the singer. I'm talking him, the person singing.
Well, I thought you just related to it so strongly that
I do relate to the
you were
song.
talking about it as yourself.
I do relate to this song a lot.
Yeah.
But it sings about such a terrible event that happened to this person, and like at the very end, the last lyric is, "And sing me a leaving song as you're leaving. Goodbye, goodbye." And like his voice is like, it sounds like he's crying.
Right.
And this happens to Michael in the Bathroom, which is a Be More Chill song, and both of these songs break my heart so much, and it's because they're crying during the song, and that is usually something that artists tend to avoid, so the song has a smoother feel.
Yeah.
But when it does happen, it breaks your heart into a million pieces.
No, I liked it. I remember liking it. I just didn't write my notes down for it for some reason.
Yeah, leaving song, good. Okay.
Dirty Night Clowns.
Yes, Dirty Night Clowns. I already talked about this one a little bit. Fandom song.
Do you
heard
think
it a
it's
million times.
overrated?
I don't think it's overrated because it's a gorgeous song. I just think it's not the best song on the album, and the rest of the album should be liked more than it should.
Yeah, so I like the imagery in this one of like I can't clean the leaves from here.
They're too far
into the branch this year.
Brush this year.
Is it brush?
Yes.
So like that's an interesting
Yeah.
like things are too buried that I can't like that's clearly talking about his psyche and trying to clear stuff out, but some stuff is just too buried. And from where you are right now in your life, you can't reach back and clean some of those things out because they're too buried. That was a really nice
I can't
imagery.
say the music video for this has a really long intro, which bothers me. A couple of my favorite songs.
Oh yeah,
have
I
really long
remember.
intros.
I tried to watch this and I had to. I was like 75% through the file before music started playing. I just kept skipping forward to try and find it because I just wanted to hear the music.
And then the music video is like really weird because the song is like allegedly about child predators, but the music video is Clown Puppet Wants to Dance.
Okay.
And it's really weird.
All right.
A lot of my favorite songs have really weird music videos, which I've mentioned before. But
Okay, Raw and Awake.
Raw and Awake, this one is so good too. I
Yep.
really love this one.
All right, what are your notes?
This one is I do think that this song pertains to its name, where the singing is very I don't know how else to describe it, but it's very raw.
Yeah.
Like it's just pure voice, and it's not altered in any way to fit to obviously it fits the song, since
Yeah.
that's how music works,
Yeah.
but it's not like altered specifically to go along with everything else happening in the song, and it's very just straight from his diaphragm. Words just happen.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. He said because it's like about him being awake and struggling, and he can't stop his mind to go to sleep, which I think a lot of people can relate to.
Oh my God, I relate to that
but
so much.
and then his SO is kind of saying it's going to be okay, like sort of validating his position. And he says offer solutions instead of your heart. Which is kind of the opposite of like the feedback that you get most of the time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you're not supposed to be offering ways for another person to fix their problem. You're supposed to be like recognizing their problem and acknowledging that they're in kind of a tough position.
Yeah.
And so like the general feedback is don't focus on solutions, focus on like validation and recognition of the issue.
Work.
And so the fact that he's calling out like I think it's great that you're telling me everything's going to be okay and that you're here with me,
yeah.
but offer me solutions and not your heart.
Right.
I think that's an interesting.
Because,
that was
like,
a good line.
You know, and I relate to this song super duper heavily because my brain is very active, and it's part of the reason why I'm sure I've mentioned a few times in the vlog. I get in bed at 11 and then fall asleep at like 1 a.m.
Right.
And like it's just because.
Oh, hey, we got an Amber Alert. It sounds like here in
Oh,
LA.
yay!
Yeah.
Missing children.
Okay, go ahead.
But it's like you know that what you're thinking, that your brain is buzzing and yelling at you, and you know what it's saying is irrational.
Right.
And you can, if someone tells you it's irrational and everything's going to be fine, even if the person's yourself, you're like, cool, but I still can't sleep until this stops.
Yeah.
Please give me a solution.
No, I like that. Okay,
Cool.
Hands on the Radio.
Hands on the Radio. This is the one that gets stuck in my head most often.
Well, this one sounds like that song from Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Yes.
This is the one that sounds like
I-
Wig in a Box,
Wig in a Box.
which
yeah.
gets stuck in my head a lot.
Yay!
Because they have a very similar melody. Mm-hmm. I think this was my favorite song.
Yeah, this one's really good.
I really enjoyed this one. I didn't.
My favorite one was Firefly.
I want to read it a lot more and try and understand the lyrics a little better. Like I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
What he's trying to say, but I couldn't dive all the way into it. Like I haven't quite cracked the nut on this one. I think. And so I'm curious to spend more. This is one I want to spend more time with and learn
Yeah,
more about.
I'm
for
glad
sure.
you want to spend more time with this album.
But I liked this one. Yep.
And then there's No More Pirates.
No More Pirates. Yep.
Which is, I think it's really cool. I don't quite understand it perfectly. Just like, obviously pirates is a euphemism, sure.
Metaphor.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor for something else, but I can't figure out what.
I liked this one is the first time he brought in a good horns section. So I thought the horns was kind of cool. It reminded me of like Cake and their like horn section. I thought it was kind of cool. And then this is the one that I listened to and I showed you Twink.
Oh yeah,
which is
that's
like
the band name.
They've got like a little toy piano, and they play this really cool,
It's
like
so
industrial
cool.
kind of music on this little toy piano, and other toy instruments now. But they started out just with a toy piano. And if you're if you're interested in looking them up, I would recommend searching for Tweak piano music. Like throw as many extra keywords in there as you can.
Actually, if you do search Twink into YouTube, the second video that comes up is by Mac Does It, and I love Mac, so you should watch that.
Yeah, I don't recommend doing that.
You don't just search for Twink.
So, Twink, the toy piano band.
Yeah,
is
that will
an
give
excellent,
you
it's
a
an
lot
excellent search for you.
If you just
to put
search for
in
Twink,
if you want to listen to those guys.
It'll give you a lot of things you don't want.
Yeah, no, I like this one.
at.
This was a good time. Fireflies.
Fireflies. Woo! I love Fireflies. This is one of my favorites on the album.
I wrote spoons. Is there something in there about spoons?
Maybe.
I
Which
should have
spoons
gone
are
back.
you talking about?
Well, I mean, maybe it was about like spoons, about like spoon theory.
Yes.
There was something in there that reminded me of spoon theory, but it's been long enough that I don't remember now. I just said spoons. What?
The music video again for this one is a fun time. It's just someone running a bunch of times. I think I like this music video though. It's such a good song, and I really like there's like two choruses in
Yeah, I like
his
this
songs.
one. This was a good one. This is probably my second
But-
favorite song.
One of the choruses is "You're making friends with the fireflies." I can't say that comes as a surprise.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really clever. And I really like the metaphor. Like, just because this is so deep, a lot of the metaphors don't make sense to me, but I love the metaphors themselves.
You got to spend some time with these songs
Fireflies.
and kind of dig in, and suddenly you'll have epiphanies and things will kind of hit you and stuff.
An epiphany that affects your poems,
Yeah,
maybe?
that's exactly right. Like I said, they all tie together. All right, Hometown Girls.
Hometown Girls. I really love this one. And this is one of the ones that I wouldn't think I would like, because I usually hate a lot of songs that are like, about that, like, talk about girls and girls being all this, like, because that's kind of what the song is. It's like girls and they're shallow and they do this and this and this, and that's how girls generally are. But I actually really like the song, and I think a lot of the points in it
I thought it
are
was
really
more
cool.
like blatantly about like people who put up with domestic abuse
Oh man.
than this one was more straightforward than a lot of the other songs that I listened to, right? And there's a line, I wrote down one of the lines from it towards the end that said that girls need to learn a thing from their mama's burns,
Yeah.
right? And so like you need to learn not to allow certain things that maybe were allowed before.
Yeah.
You need to stand up for yourself, and I thought this one was more directly about. No, I mean, I didn't read it and listen to it again, but I was thinking of it in terms of girls who allow themselves to remain in abusive situations.
Wow, that's actually a really interesting read of it, because I was sort of reading it as girls who are like running, because it says sometimes girls, they run away, and I was thinking that is about like girls who like run away from home and start doing rebellious illegal activities and stuff like that.
I don't
That's
know.
an
We'll have to
issue
look.
too.
Yeah, we'll have to look.
But yeah, interesting. That's a cool thing.
I also this one was the first one with harmonica that I noticed.
Yeah,
He definitely brings in a lot of
harmonica.
instruments, which I think is cool.
Harmonica's
Over and over.
Over and over. This one has a sword in it. Whoa, a swear word. Also, I think I haven't said that in the vlog. Sword is my way of saying swear word. But over and over is really interesting because it is about feeling like someone has put you in a cycle that goes over and over.
Yeah, I've got this interesting bad things stay and good things pass away.
Yeah.
Which I've written is the opposite of songs like Polaroid.
Yeah.
Where like when you look back on the past, it's better than you thought it was.
Yeah.
Like, you see this idealized version of the past and think about it as being great. And this one is sort of the opposite of that. Bad things stay and good things pass away. You just see the bad things. Like if he
Right.
looks at his Polaroids, it's probably a very depressing evening for him. Right?
Now
He
I'm just
remembers
imagining
everything
him,
that
like,
was going wrong around when they took
That's
that
interesting,
Polaroid.
and that's not how your psyche should work. Please.
And then
don't.
they had kids singing at the end of this one.
Yeah.
They had like a little kid chorus kind of thing.
I thought that
or
was
it
really
one kid?
cool.
I can't remember.
I think it was one kid.
Yeah.
But
it was really cool.
I like having
and a
the
little
kids
creepy.
singing. Yeah.
Always a little creepy when you got the one kid singing in an album like this. And speaking of cats and kids,
Cats and Kids.
Mm-hmm.
This one's a good song. I've actually.
I just wrote, apparently she's not coming back.
That's
Because
what
I
it-
think it says that line like
that's the
40
chorus.
times in this one song.
is.
I'm like, okay, I get it. She's not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And it's about death, and yay, and it's a lot of lyrics in this song are repeated in the Pirates Reprise, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, we're almost there. Yep.
But
This one also had like either a xylophone in it, or it almost sounded like a music box, like a
Yeah.
wind up little music
Yeah,
box.
yeah.
It could have been a xylophone, but it really kind of sounded like a music box. And this one reminded me of the twink, the toy piano stuff too.
Yeah.
The instrument exploration
can't
I
just
thought
say
was really
the
interesting.
twink.
The twink reminded me of this twink that I knew.
Cough, cough, my OCs, cough, cough.
Right, go ahead.
And I have sent this one. This one is just when I kill off a character, and my friends are like, "No, you can't just do that." I send them a link to this song
There you
because
go.
it's like she is not coming
Right,
back.
right.
She is not coming.
All right, do you want to pronounce the title of the next one?
No,
I assume that's French.
yes,
And
I
it's
think
an
it's
instrumental.
French. It is an instrumental. I think this one's really cool. It's really
I like it.
calming.
Yeah.
It is.
The whole album is really good, like
Yeah.
background music too, to like put on while you're working and doing something else. I
We
think
need
it's really
Shannon to pronounce it.
good. Yeah, that's just we can, right.
Shannon can do this.
The last thing I need is Shannon in my life. More Shannon.
More Shannon.
That's a lost reference for those of you who aren't,
Yeah.
aren't playing along with the greater aspects
Lost.
of what's going on in the Act Out Games family.
The-
There's a lot. I don't
the
remember there
AZU.
being so much Boone and Shannon, quite frankly. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Boone and Shannon, and I don't remember that there was so. I must not have
Shannon.
really started paying super attention to Lost until the second season. Because while I remember some of the things that are happening, like Boone and Shannon are like major characters, and I don't remember them being as major characters. And maybe that's a little bit spoilery in the fact that they may not be major characters.
How dare you.
rest. But they could also be, and I just hated them so much that I blocked them from my memory.
I don't like.
We're not talking
Boone
about
keeps
Lost.
making me. Let's
That's
talk about Lost.
It's a whole side thing. All
I
right.
can see moms doing that.
So, all right. The things she said.
Things she said.
Things she said.
This is.
Oh, I love this. Like, this is kind of a funeral kind of song, right?
Yeah.
And then he had this line, when people come, when people go. And so that plays both ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it can be people come and people go, like at a funeral kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
people are coming and going. Or it could be when people come because someone went.
Yeah.
Like they're coming because someone died. So when people come, when people go, blah, blah, blah. Like, and
It really blows your mind.
I actually had this conversation with a guy at work yesterday, the day before, that like when one of my grandmothers passed away, like it was a really hard time for me.
Yeah.
And we had like there was a cross country drive, and we were trying to get there and be there. We knew she'd gone in the hospital, and we got there like minutes too late for me to
my
see her
God.
before she passed. And so she was gone when we got there, but just like super recently and stuff. And it was she was still in the hospital, but it was super hard for me. And then there was the funeral after that. And like, I got a Southern family, so there's lots of viewings and responsibilities. There's a service in the church, and then there's a graveside service, and then the family comes back late. There's a whole to do, right? And it kind of broke me a little bit. And so I just said, like, at that point, I'm like I'm never going to another funeral. Like, I'm just letting you all know now. Like, I am done with the concept of funerals. Like, I think it's ridiculous. I think it has nothing to do with the person in the box. Like, it's about the people that are left behind and trying to find some way to console
Right.
themselves, and that's totally fine. And you, if this is something you need to find peace and console yourself, you do it. I don't.
Right.
Like, it doesn't make me better. It puts me in a much worse place, and so I'm done. I'm not going to any more funerals. And so
Right.
listening to this song was kind of making, when people come, when people go, I was like, yeah, that's not me anymore. Like, I'm no longer in that class of people.
That goes to
So
funerals.
that brought up a lot of thoughts about kind of that position of
Yeah.
mine and stuff. Yeah.
And I really like this song, and this is one that I listen to a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
It is the cat pole. I keep thinking it's cat hole for some reason. The cat pole, which is a cattails,
Yeah.
whispers things she said.
Oh, uh-huh.
And there's a line, I can't remember the specific line now, that is, like, it's kind of about revisiting someone who, it sounds like they drowned in the ocean. Because it's like, I'm sorry, mom, ocean, are you sorry too?
Right.
And it sounds kind of like, and like with all of the metaphor of the catpole whispering things she said.
Yeah, and there's
Sounds
also like that, if you're in that environment, like if you're around, like in Tennessee, you get a lot of this, like the cattails, and that would be on like the edge of the water.
Yeah.
And so if you've got a nice, strong breeze blowing through, you get, it's called whispering. And so it sounds like the wind flowing through those cattails is kind of making these sounds, and it sounds like whispering. And so it's almost like you can understand what is being said to you, like the cattails were whispering to you as the wind flows through. And if you have a strong like pattern recognition
With
desire, then you may hear, like what's the audio recording thing that the BuzzFeed guys do?
Which one? The ghost box or the?
Yeah, like the ghost box or the radio. What do you call the
That's
things
the
where
ghost
you
box.
record it and then you come back and listen to it later?
Oh,
and
that
you
is
hear the EMVs or
EMP.
something, EMP. So it's kind of like that. Like
Electromagnetic
if you're really looking for something and you're listening to white noise, sometimes you'll hear those patterns because you're looking for it. And so if you're in a certain place mentally and you're hearing the breeze blowing through the cattails, you can hear people whispering things to you and stuff.
Yeah.
Another good Lost reference too. Like
Yeah, I know.
whispering
I
and
was
stuff.
like, haha, Lost.
All right, cool.
And yeah, I think it's really cool because it does sound to me like the person is going to the site where it sounds like their mom died.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy. I didn't get that, but that's fair. I'll listen to it again.
It's like, and it's at like, next to the water, and they're grieving her there.
Cool.
Pirates Reprise.
Yep.
You said this one is Cats and Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like a lot of the Cats and Kids lyrics.
but they're altered.
They are. No, they're all. I'm not
Yes.
saying it's like replaying Cats and Kids.
I know.
I'm just saying it's more of a Cats and Kids reprise than a Pirates reprise.
Right.
Which is, they've got to be saying something.
Yeah.
Like calling it that.
Maybe
But
we'll figure
I
out
don't know what. We don't know what the
when we
pirate
fig-
metaphor is. And so we
we'll
have to
figure it out.
Yeah, we'll keep diving deeper. But
I like it. And it's just like, it's one of those songs which I really love, which happens a lot in musical theater.
Yep.
Where it's different lines from all of the different songs on the album.
Yeah.
That are all coming back at once.
Yeah,
And
the reprise kind of thing is
I like
a
it,
cool thing.
especially when they're all on top of each other.
Sweet.
That happens at the end of Wait For It in Hamilton, and it's my favorite part of Hamilton.
Okay.
Anyway,
All right.
Black Hawk Waltz.
I don't have anything for that either.
Another instrumental, I think.
Oh, it's an instrumental. Okay, that's why.
Yeah. This one is this one's really good. It really like both of the instrumentals on this album are very calming. Black Hawk Waltz is really interesting because it is a waltz. And it sounds like something I've heard before, and I can't.
Well, it's the
place my
orchestral
finger
aspect.
over it.
Like this stuff is like part of the idea behind a lot of this is that the orchestral components of it specifically are, I don't know. It's like this theory that the chord structures and the melodies and the way that they wrote some of this classical music like taps into this collective subconscious almost. And like over hundreds and hundreds of years of development, it's this language that we all speak and we all understand. And so when you hear it, it sounds familiar immediately because we're so hardwired to recognize these tones and these chord changes and these intervals in music. And so he's basing a lot of the structure of the songs that he's doing around this intentional and historic language of music.
Yeah.
And so the idea when you hear it is that it sounds super familiar. And part of it is because like all music that we listen to today has grown out of that. And so you hear common themes and again, common intervals and common structures and melodies. And so you've heard it before, and there's only 12 notes. And so you only hear them in so many different combinations.
Yeah.
And so you have heard it before, but part of it is also potentially this idea of this innate recognition of certain melodies and structures that classical music taps into. So that's part of what chamber pop is all about, is leveraging some of those like built-in abilities to grok music and to connect to music really quickly and stuff. So yeah, I totally agree.
I think, I just, I agree. I thought you were going to, when you started talking about, like, when you started talking, I thought you were going to bust into some, like, hive mind conspiracy theory.
No,
Like, yes.
no, like the Akashic Records kind of thing. It's not that. It's just that there's supposed to be this, in our DNA, is hard-coded a response to certain types of music is
Yeah.
a theory, is one of the things out there.
And I think that's really, really cool. And
Yeah.
biology is fascinating.
Okay, so we're
Anyway.
we're way over an hour at this
Yeah,
point.
and I have
so-
like class in like an hour, in like 30
Oh,
minutes.
you
so
gotta I gotta get to
ready.
work. We got a lot of stuff to do. But yeah, so these were both a lot of fun. So again, thank you very much
Yay.
for sharing these.
You're welcome. I'm glad you liked
I
them.
loved them both. I will do more of both of them. Like that's a rare thing.
More
Like I'm
Doki
not
Doki.
sort of turning them off. I'm gonna do more of the sides and paths in Doki Doki to kind of see where it goes and trying to hack around and see what I can get the system to do. And I'm definitely gonna listen to this album more. So thank you very much for sharing.
Yay, welcome.
Your homework for next week is going to be both of the Blade Runners.
Oh,
So
so
we're
you
gonna-
decided to
yeah,
do
we're
both.
going to do both. We're going to watch the classic Blade Runner, and then we're going to watch the new one and sort of compare them, and we'll talk about both of them next week.
Is this the first week without an album?
It is the first week without an album.
Whoa.
Yeah, 2 movies.
2 movies.
Cool. So we're going to do
Cool.
that. And again, go ahead and shout out how people get in touch with us real quick.
All right, so if you want to get in touch with us and recommend things for us to watch, as well as tell us your thoughts on the things that we've done in the podcast before, make sure to leave a comment on the YouTube video with the audio on it, or leave a tweet or hit us up over Twitter at ValidateMeCast, or be the first person to send us an email at validatemepodcast@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, check out Blade Runner and come back and listen to us talk about it next week.
Yeah,
And until then,
bear with us.